Welcome back to Empower Indie Podcast. This podcast creates space for honest conversations about health, well-being, and community resources to help people in southwestern North Dakota live healthy, full lives. The Empower Indie Podcast is produced by Women Empowering Women, a nonprofit organization dedicated to connecting, supporting, and educating women to help them become the best versions of themselves. To become a member or learn more, visit wewnetwork.org.
Hi, this is Victor Cannabis.
This is Eston Martin.
I'm Melanie Steffen.
Okay, today we're diving into what support for students with disabilities actually looks like in schools. We hear the term IEPs, accommodations, and transition planning, but it's not always clear what that means in the day-to-day life of a student. So in this conversation, we're breaking it down to understand what it looks like in classrooms, how supports are put in place, and how they change as students grow. Let's get started. So, for someone unfamiliar, how would you describe what supports for students with disabilities actually look like day to day?
Yeah, so like you had talked about, the IEP is what drives what student supports looks like. It's an individualized education plan, and we meet annually to discuss it. At this meeting, we talk, especially when they get to the high school and they turn 16, we have like transition planning. So what that looks like is, what does their future look like educationally? Do they want to go to college? Do they want to receive on-the-job training? What do they want to do for a vocational career? And then also what their independent living skills look like. And then that's really what drives the IEP at the high school level, so that we're making sure they're taking classes or they're having opportunities that align with those goals.
So, how does a student access those supports, and what does that process typically look like for families?
Sure. So families are an important part of the IEP process. And within the meeting, that's kind of where we decide the supports. We account for like minutes, how many minutes are going to be in general education, or how many minutes do they spend in special education. And that's really where we dive in to see what supports are necessary for the students. What accommodations are they using? What accommodations do they not need that maybe they used previously? And again, it's just at that meeting where we really make sure we have a perfect plan for the student.
Okay, so can you kind of explain like what an IEP in simple terms would be, and how it shapes their experience while they're
Yeah,
at school?
so the IEP is a legal document that the school has to follow. So like I said, we review it annually, and it's where we talk about where they're currently functioning. So like, what grade level are they reading at? What are the math skills that they know how to do? Then we look at like their adaptive. How are they doing at home with like independent living skills? How do they communicate? Do they have any physical limitations? Do they have any medical needs? It just really goes over everything that encompasses a student. And then every year we create goals that help get them where they want to be. Those would be considered like annual goals.
Okay.
And then since they're 16 and it's a transition IEP, then we have T3 activities is what they're called. And those are related to transition. So what activity are they going to do to help them get the education they want? What activity are we going to do to help them get the job they want someday? What activity are we going to do to make sure they're independent adults?
Okay. So, what does success look like when supports are really working for a student?
Yeah, that they're just having like like that their plan is going to plan. So every year when we meet and look at that IEP, that we're seeing the students making progress, that the students satisfied with what they're doing at school, and that we're making sure we're addressing any concerns that the family might have or that the student might have. So.
Okay, Benton, tell me a moment where you felt like one of these support interventions helped you make a difference and helped you move forward.
So, one of my friends was Eston, my mentor.
Mm-hmm.
We always go to for comp days like on A days for peer-to-peer. And it's my first day of peer-to-peer. So, I'm a sophomore, and yeah.
So peer-to-peer is considered a support for
Right.
students with disabilities.
Mhm.
Only so many students in special education are allowed or not allowed, but qualify technically for the program. So Benton, this is his first year being in peer-to-peer, and he's receiving support from Eston to kind of cover those social emotional goals that he
Right.
might have within the IEP.
So, Eston kind of helped you with feeling comfortable when you went to your first peer-to-peer day? Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. So can you explain what peer-to-peer is and how it helps students at your school?
So peer-to-peer is a class in the high school where a gen ed student like myself is paired up with a special education student like Benton, and what we do is try to give them a more enhanced high school experience. Like we'll go to the sports games with them and stuff. We have to raise money for going on skills trips where we can teach life skills, and as a mentor myself, I also get to learn leadership.
How are students identified or invited to participate in the program?
Yeah, so for students with special education at that IEP meeting, we would identify that they would have some social skill deficits and could benefit from having a mentor. It's not only for students with like an intellectual disability, also students with learning disabilities or emotional more disabilities and mental health, things like that. Once we identify how many students would qualify or need to receive peer-to-peer support, then that's how we recruit mentors. So typically, we have a list of people that sign up for peer-to-peer on their registration sheet, and then we have to go through and we get opinions from some of the students that are in the class. We get opinions from other teachers and from coaches to see maybe which students would stand out or be great leaders. We also have what's called inclusive sports, and that's an opportunity for anybody at the high school to join, like flag football, wiffle ball, bowling, basketball, track. And then that way, if they're a freshman or sophomore and we get to know them through that and we can see like, oh, they'd be a great mentor, then it's easier for them to get into the peer-to-peer program as a mentor. And we also encourage students to come like stop by our room to meet our students, to become a familiar face, because then again, that's more likely that they'd get in the program.
Right.
So like this year, we were only able to accept 15 mentors, and next year we only have 13.
Okay.
So not a large group.
What made you want to be a part of peer-to-peer?
So my older brother also was in the peer-to-peer program, and when he just like kind of explained to me what it was about, I really supported it. I really believed that it, like spreading inclusion is a good cause that everyone should do.
Have you learned anything from Benton?
When I was a freshman, I met Stefan when I was in ninth grade, and my first class was in Stefan's class, and I was joining not in peer-to-peer because I was not a freshman, but I'm a sophomore, and I had to go to San Antonio, Texas, with all my friends, and because Stefan's did not come, because Juan and Michelson, Anderson, and Robinson are there, so Stefan didn't want to come.
So students in special education don't get to take peer-to-peer until their sophomore year,
Right.
which is a very big deal for people like Benton who only want to take peer-to-peer,
Right.
right?
Yep.
Yep. And I didn't get to go on the San Antonio trip with Benton because I had influenza.
Oh.
And that has
Yeah.
been a big deal too.
Yeah.
Like everyone who got
You
sick.
missed her,
Yep.
huh?
Yeah, everyone
Yeah.
got sick.
Everyone
Dang
got
it.
sick. I started
Yep.
the trend.
Not me, actually.
Good job, Benton.
Do you feel like you get to do a lot of things with friends at DHS?
Yes.
Yeah. What kind of things do you get to do with your friends at DHS? What does inclusion look like at DHS for you?
It looks like basically making sure that everyone is involved with what we're doing. I know in peer-to-peer we like to do a lot of activities, whether it's like obviously inclusive sports, we have to fundraise money a lot. We also like to make some TikToks, and it's important to always make sure that you invite other people to come do those things with you. If they don't want to, that's fine, but it's always a good idea to at least ask. And I feel like that's something that happens a lot in DHS, very inclusive.
I think you guys do a really good job of showing up for everybody too. Like, did peer-to-peer come to your comp?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
they
does.
did, huh? They cheered you on, huh?
They cheer me on.
And a big mission statement that we have this year was like inclusion is what we do, but belonging is what we create. We really truly feel like we want students to feel like they have a place to go to at DHS and that they belong within the school, not just that they're invited, but that they're wanted.
Mm-hmm. So, what have you learned from each other through this experience?
My first day was to meet Eston, and he said, "Who are you?" My name's Benton, and what is your name? My name's Eston Martin. And he said, "I am Eston," and he said he has his last name to my best friends in DSS and peer-to-peer.
And one thing I've learned about Benton is how much he loves his sports. He does any sport that he can do, and he does it with a passion. And that's what I like about being friends with Benton.
Yep.
What are some of the biggest skills or supports students need to build before leaving high school?
Again, I think we just have to look at like what they want in their life, to make sure that they're contributing members of society and that they're doing things as independently as they can.
What's one thing families often underestimate or don't realize about this transition period?
Just that there is a lot of our services need to be replicated at home as well. Like if parents want something for their student, we're doing it throughout the whole school day. We also need to see them practicing that skill at home, or else the student isn't going to be able to transfer that skill. I also think parents don't realize, like, when a student with a disability turns 18, parents need to file for guardianship, that parents don't get to make decisions anymore, which can be a really scary thing. So like financially, medically, parents need to go through like a legal process to ensure that they can support their student if that's what
Right.
the student needs. And there's a lot of paperwork and stuff that to be able to get supports that I don't think always is. It's people will get to it when they get to it kind of a thing,
Right.
but that there is a long period of time that it takes to get certain supports. So there's a lot at this transition period. It's exciting. There's a lot that needs to be done to be set up for success.
Do you have anything else to say, Ben?
No.
Okay.
Not this question yet.
Okay. As we wrap up today, it's clear that support for students with disabilities is not one thing or one moment. It's a process that grows with the student, and it really comes down to relationships, communication, and making sure every student has what they need to be successful. Thank you guys so much for sharing your time and your insight and your experiences with us today. And for our listeners, we hope this helped make some of these systems feel a little more clear. This episode was made possible through a grant from the North Dakota State Council on Developmental Disabilities. Until next time, stay informed, stay empowered, and we'll see you on the next Empower Indie podcast.